Thank you. Hope everybody's doing well. Let me introduce our friend and fellow Rotarian, Mr. Judd Wilson. He currently serves as the Vice President of the Chamber of Commerce for the Community Development Foundation in Tupelo, Mississippi. CDF is a 72-year-old organization that is consistently recognized as one of the top 10 economic development organizations in the United States by Site Selection magazine. Judd leads the chamber in helping its 1,100 members connect, lead, and grow. He also oversees the operations of the Tupelo Business Incubator, the Renaissance Center for Ideas. Judd received his Institute for Organizational Management from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Judd earned his bachelor's degree in psychology from Stanford University, and Judd is married and has a son and a daughter, and we are pumped to have him here today speaking to us. And Judd, it's all you, brother.
Thank you, Robbie. Heck of a bio. I didn't know what all that bio said, so we'll see. I tell you, this Zoom is very interesting. It'll be interesting for me that I'm actually speaking for y'all today. Greg mentioned that the background behind me, I'm actually in the CDF boardroom, and I love these paintings. And when the COVID first happened and our church stopped having services, we actually started to do Sunday school on Facebook Live. And I'm Greg's Sunday school teacher, and I didn't realize his birthday was this week, and I didn't realize I was the senior adult Sunday school teacher. I just found that out since he's having a birthday. So that's a pleasure. So but that's the background behind me that we have here. But doing Zoom is different. You learn a lot of things. I just learned that David Sparks' dog is actually in Kiwanis, and maybe that's why he's been barking so much, because he does not like Rotary. I can't figure that out. And I also realized the jokes are not as impressive on Zoom as they are in real person, but I'm seeing faces and I'm getting thumbs up. I'll let you know, a lot of times in Rotary, I'll turn on my profile picture, because a lot of times I'm doing this because I'm texting other Rotarians like, is Greg listening? I'm texting that, he's listening. So there's a lot of that going on. And another little game I play on Zoom a lot that I encourage you to do, if you got it not on non-speaker mode, it almost looks like the Brady Bunch. And so I know that different people are in different locations, but I was going to inform Harold Plunkett that he is actually Alice the maid today. So congratulations, Harold, for playing along. So, but yeah, I do want to talk to you a little bit about the chamber side of CDF. I think David will probably be speaking for us. I know he speaks for Rotary about every year and a half or every 2 years and kind of gives an economic development update. I'll leave that to the big guys to do that. I'm gonna kind of give you more of a Chamber of Commerce update today and kind of let you know what's going on. But before I do that, I thought it was important to kind of tell you a little bit about me and how much this community means to me and why it's so important that I'm here. And it's a lot because of our community. And Greg kind of was speaking on it earlier about the major thoroughfare and things like that has really helped Tupelo and Lee County grow, I think is helping us as a community. And I'll tell you, I grew up in Pensacola, Florida. And it's funny, as Robbie mentioned, I graduated from Stanford University in Birmingham, Alabama. But a lot of times when I tell people I graduated from Stanford in Birmingham, they think I went to Stanford in California. And the neat thing is I never correct them. And I never, they'll think, man, Judd went to Stanford. No, I went to Stanford, but I never correct them for that. So, but when I moved back home for a few years after I graduated college and then got married. And so my wife and I, Martha Ann, actually moved to Tupelo, Mississippi about 6 months after we were married. And when we moved here, we knew absolutely no one. I knew nobody in Tupelo. The funny thing is I actually was a very huge Elvis fan growing up. All the way growing up, I was a big Elvis fan. And so when I moved here, I actually had high school friends and college friends pull me aside, kind of like an intervention, and say, Judd, you're taking the Elvis thing too far. You're uprooting your family and heading to Tupelo. But I really did move here for a job. I was in the pharmaceutical arena for about 16 years, calling on doctors. And so when we moved here 6 months after got married, our plan really was a 3-year plan. Our plan was either to move to Nashville or Birmingham or back to Pensacola. That we actually had that discussion before we even moved here. And so that was our goal. The funny thing is 3 years later, we still did not have kids yet, but we fell in love with Tupelo, Mississippi. And so the reason that we did is we fell in love with people like y'all. We got very involved in our church. We got involved in the community. I actually got involved in the community theater and then started building a friend group. And so we just fell in love with this area. So when 3 years hit, we sat down, my wife and I sat down and had a meeting. That wasn't the first meeting we had in 3 years, just to kind of let you know that. But when we sat down, we decided, hey, are we wanting to go through with this? Are we ready to move somewhere else? And we said, no, we want to stay here. And it was about another year later, we started having kids, and that even kind of entrenched us even more that we wanted to stay here. So actually this month, this week celebrates my 24th year in Tupelo, Mississippi. I've been here for 24 years. So it's really because of the community and what we've built here. And my son is actually a sophomore at Mississippi State. So he went all the way through Tupelo Public Schools. And then my daughter, David, like your son, she is a senior at Tupelo High School. So we're dealing with the senior year thing going on, and we couldn't be happier. And she's going to Stanford. I mean, really, she's going to Stanford in the fall, but she won't correct people either. They'll think she's at Stanford. But anyway, Robbie mentioned it in my bio that really the three things that we focused on the Chamber of Commerce side here at CDF is to really connect, lead, and grow. And that's really everything that we do on the Chamber side. That's what we want to accomplish. Is we have 1,100 members, and what can we do to have those members come together? Because we know that when businesses are working together and that we're able to create an environment for them to interact together, to help grow their businesses together, that our community will grow. And so those are really the three things that we look at on the Chamber of Commerce side, working with our small businesses and really all of our businesses. We're really blessed as a Chamber of Commerce here at CDF that we are actually partnered. As you know, CDF is the economic development. We're also the planning, and then we're also the Chamber. So we have three divisions within CDF, and we are really blessed because there's some areas where the Economic Development Agency and the Chamber are totally different entities. And in our community, we are one and the same. So that allows us to really work with all of our industries in our community. And it opens up just a lot of different ideas with our small business owners as well. So we're blessed to have that, and it helps us so much. But as you know, COVID has affected everybody, and it has affected us here in the Chamber of Commerce as well on how we can actually be there for our members. And really looking back at this year, we feel that we have probably been more relevant for our small business owners and really all of our business owners during this time of COVID than we have in a long, long time. Now, we've not been able to meet really a lot in person, but one of the things we did early on in March is we saw a need that when information was given, that information was available for anyone, but it needed to come from us, and we needed to get the information out as soon as possible for our members. So back in March, we teamed up and formed a website called tupelotogether.com. And I know most of y'all have seen that, and really it is just a resource website is all that it is. But what sparked that is what services are available for businesses and what's out there for businesses to take advantage of. And so when we did that back in March, it was right on the heels of the EIDL loans. And if you're familiar, when the CARES Act was passed, that was the first thing that really started everything was the EIDL. And so we put all the information together, put it on the Tupelo Together website, and then we started to do webinars on Facebook Live. And our first webinar ever was actually on the EIDL and what you need to do to fill out that process and that paperwork. And then a few weeks later is when PPP came out. So we actually probably did about 3 or 4 webinars in about a 3-week span. And it was always changing, but we felt like when the information came out, we needed to have that go out to our community. And so that's what we did. And so it's been a blessing. We've been getting calls from members and from other organizations as well on how to push that information out there. And the neat thing is our accounting department, our CFO, Matt McCarty and Carol Ann, work very closely with our banks and with a lot of our accountants looking at the rules and figuring out what does this mean? So it's neat how they were able to reach out to our members to kind of get collaboration before we got that information out there. But those have been very, very successful for our members to look at and say, hey, this is how we go through this process and do that. As you know, the city of Tupelo formed a recovery task force. And so we actually partnered back in June. As you know, the CARES Act money to the small business, they actually came up with the Back to Business grant program. And that was money utilized from the CARES money that was given to the state of Mississippi. And then they in turn gave it back out to those small business owners. And so with that task force and with other volunteers and agencies, Three Rivers, TVA was in there, City of Tupelo, Lee County. What we did is we got volunteers to come together. I actually see some of them on the TV right now. We just got local business owners, accountants, and bankers to come help us over that 3-day period. And during that 3-day period, we actually worked with 170 businesses over that 3 days to basically help them fill out that grant paperwork for them. And then what CDF did is that application was open through September. So we actually kept 2 of our conference rooms open. And actually, if a business wanted to come by, we sat down and worked with them on that paperwork so they could fill out the Back to Business grant program. And so over that 3 days at the arena and then keeping our offices open through September, we actually ended up working with about 285 businesses for them to fill out their paperwork and do that. The neat thing is a lot of those were CDF members, but a lot of them weren't, which was great because during this pandemic, we love the sticker in the window that says, hey, I'm a part of CDF, but we also realize that we need to be here for all of our businesses. So we were able to help those that didn't even know what we did. So it gave us a good touch point for that. And actually now a lot of those are now members and involved in what we do here at CDF. So it was good to get back to that. I did get some data. And like I said, on economic development side, I know David will probably speak for us sometime this year or something, but he'll kind of give those updates. But one of the data that we did pull back that basically about 37% of the workforce in Lee County there was covered under the PPP for that 10-week period. So that's impressive that people were taking advantage of those programs, and hopefully some of the work that we did in getting the information out there was beneficial. So when we connect with that, we were so glad we were able to connect that information. As you know, on the chamber side, we're very event driven. And so we had to kind of change gears on what we did. And so one of the first things that we did back in May is when we usually have our annual meeting, our open house here at CDF. Unfortunately, we were not able to do that, but we were able to give our report out to our members virtually. And so Dr. Sam Pace and Tolly kind of did the changing the guard and passing the gavel, and we were kind of able to give the updates on that, and it was well received. So we realized we could do things virtually. We have not done any business after hours just because we couldn't. We did not do a Taste of Tupelo, but our business box lunch and learns and our business roundtables we were continuing to do, and we do those virtually and have gotten a great response from those. So we will continue to do that virtually. And then we do have a golf tournament and a skeet shoot every year. We really kind of changed how we did that and took precautions and were able to do that outside and had 0 incidents during that time, but we just took the precautions to do that. So it was something that we wanted to do and something that we wanted to kind of have our members to go be able to engage together. So virtual business roundtable will actually be this Wednesday. You just have to go to our Facebook page and you can log in. It'll be at 4:00. And we might even give a successful shout out to Greg for his birthday on that one as well. So there you go. Happy birthday again, Greg. Let me tell you a little bit about what's going on at the Renaissance Center for Ideas. That's under the chamber umbrella. And so we run that as well. We actually have had 3 graduates come out of the Renaissance Center for Ideas over the last few months. So we're excited about that. And then every year that we always do the pitch competition. And we were able to do that this year, even because of COVID, just because the way that is set up. It's not a lot of people at one time, so we were able to spread out in the boardroom, and we actually had 20 businesses pitch to our mentors. And then what they do is they work with their mentors for about an 8-week period, And so we pick 4 of those, and then they work with them for an 8-week period, and then we bring them back, and that final 4 pitches again. And so this year we had an individual. He was a senior. He actually is a senior right now at South Tupelo High School. His name is Cale Coker. He's our first student to ever win the pitch, and he's got like 3 dump trucks, has a hauling and disposal business, and just a wonderful story. So that program still goes on strong, and it's something that we care about, because we feel like if we can grow small businesses and entrepreneurs, our community only grows more. So that's something that we're very excited about. And then on the Connect, Lead, and Grow, I wanted to kind of update you a little bit on our leadership and what we do on the leadership basis. Actually, this year is the 20th year of the Jim Ingram Community Leadership Institute. And we could not do that without the Create Foundation. They're our partner in that. And so this is the 20th year. This year will be the 20th year. And it's very interesting. I tell the leadership class this every year. When, Leadership Lee was around for a while, and then when we revamped that and got up with Create to kind of revamp that program, we got together and then, of course, named that in the honor of Jim Ingram. And so that's happened in 2001. And actually, when that first class was being formed of the Jim Ingram Community Leadership Institute, the committee that was in there working on the names to figure out who was going to be in that first class was actually on September 11th, 2001. And what an unbelievable date in history that class was being formed on actually September 11th during that time. So that program continues to grow, and we're very pleased with the outcome of that. We've actually had about 445 graduates that are alumni of the Jim Ingram Community Leadership Institute. I'm looking at a bunch of them right now. If you can wave if you're one and give a little shout out. But they continue to do great work in our community, and something that we're very, very passionate about. And really with COVID, they work on it. They're in the class for the year, and then they give a give back year. And so during this give back year, we're actually trying to team up a lot of these groups with a lot of our nonprofits during this time. So we're going to continue to help grow that leadership program, because we feel like, we stand on the shoulders of giants in here in Tupelo, Lee County. We can name a lot of those. Some of them in these pictures behind me. And so we know that we need to build the next generations of leaders. So that's something that we're passionate here in CDF and on the Chamber of Commerce side as well. And we're going to continue to do that through our Jim Ingram Community Leadership Institute. And then 4 years ago, we decided that we needed to do something, because those are working with about 25 leaders every year. And so we wanted to grow our net a little bit on how we grow leaders. And so we started the Ignite Leadership Conference. And so we're having our 4th year. We usually do that in January. Actually, last week would have been the Ignite Leadership Conference if we kept to our usual schedule. And so we have moved that event to April. And so what we're doing to be able to continue to do Ignite is we're actually going to split it into 2 different sessions. And so we will have a morning session of Ignite and then an afternoon session of Ignite. And each session will be exactly the same. So what that'll allow us to do is actually split our audience exactly in half. And then we're not going to sell as many tickets as we usually do. We actually had 720 people in attendance last year. So now we will sell less tickets and have about right at 300 or 275, which is well under the 25% capacity at the Orchard. So you will either go in the morning or you'll go in the afternoon, and it's exactly the same session. So that way we're going to hopefully be able to continue to do that event. Let me tell you who's coming, just so you know. We put it out last month, but we're really going to start publicizing this the first week of February for the event in April. But it'll be Dr. Henry Cloud. He's a leadership expert, best-selling author. I think he's written like 30 books or so, and he's actually a native Mississippian. So we're excited to have him back. And he doesn't come to Mississippi a lot, so we're looking forward to that. We have another speaker. She's an entrepreneur. Jess Ekstrom is her name, and she started an organization called Headbands for Hope and does a lot of charity work with children. And then we have Kwame Christensen, and he is actually an attorney and a negotiator. And the neat thing is he teaches you how to negotiate at your office, at home, or wherever you are, because everything is a negotiation. So a lot of a neat skill set that you can learn there when it comes to leadership. So we're very excited about it. We won't have as many speakers as we usually do because we have to split it in half, and you can't have 6 speakers in 3 hours like you can in 6 hours. So that's how we're going to pull that off this year, but look forward to doing that. Part of the Ignite Leadership Conference that we started 3 years ago is we do a podcast. So we have 6 episodes every season. And so we actually just launched that again. It's called Ignitecast. We're in season 3. And so if you just go to your podcast app and I know none of how this works at all. I'm just reading this out, but you can go to a podcast app, I guess. But if you put Ignitecast in there, you can see our season 1, season 2, and then season 3 is just started. And our first guest that we actually interviewed that was released last week is Dr. Thomas Dodd, who's our state health officer. And if I asked you last year who the state health officer was, nobody would know. So now everybody knows who he is. So it's an interesting thing because we talk a little bit about COVID with him, but every guest we have on our podcast, we really try to glean out different leadership things that they follow and something we can learn even from them. So we got some good guests lined up for this season of the Ignitecast and really just helping form that leadership. So that's where we are. That's what we do in the chamber, is really to try to connect, lead, and grow with our members. And, I think it's really been the glue that has helped hold this community together. And now it's so fun to be a part of. As I mentioned earlier, when I told you that I had my 3-year plan to get out of here, and here I am 24 years later, and I know it's because of the great work of the people I see on this screen and the great work that our businesses and our communities and our churches and our nonprofits have done to make this town what it is, that I never wanted to leave. And so I think it's important for us to continue to carry that torch and do that. I've told this story before. I don't think I've ever told it at Rotary. And it's weird because I've performed in front of Rotary, I think 2 or 3 different times, usually as characters from the Greater Tuna series. And then Tom had me sing a couple of times during Christmas. So it's weird not singing or acting or anything like that and just talking like a normal person. But it is good to speak in front of this group. But I've told this story before because this is sort of what I model everything I do after. Like I said, I grew up in Pensacola, Florida, and there's a community sort of near the naval base called Warrenton, Florida, which is, it's a suburb of Pensacola, and there's bayous and all that near the base and all that. And so my mom taught me servant leadership. Now, she didn't teach me servant leadership by saying, hey, Judd, go do this, go do that. She taught me by taking us with her. And she was big in delivering Meals on Wheels. And I remember as a small child, I would go with my mom to deliver Meals on Wheels. And one of her routes was through the Warrenton area. And we actually dropped meals off to an elderly couple. Her name was Mimi, and then his name was Sumter. And they actually lived on a bayou with a pier and all this cool stuff. So when you're 8 or 9 years old, getting to go deliver Meals on Wheels, I got to go do that. Well, Sumter, most of the time, was sitting on the pier, and then Mimi was inside the house. So my mom said, hey, go out there and talk to Sumter. Well, the neat thing is Sumter was blind. And so most of the vision I've ever learned, I actually learned from a blind man. And here's why. Because when I'd go out and hang out with Sumter, he was a little bit different than my parents. I grew up a Baptist. I'm still Baptist. But Sumter he drank, smoked, and cussed. And I'm actually looking at some Baptists that do that already. So it's not an unusual thing now. But as an 8 or 9 year old boy, I'd go out on the pier with Sumter. There he is. There he's spoken now, Harold. But I'd go out and hang out on the pier with Sumter. And so the neat thing was, he asked me, he said, Judd, do you want to help me light this cigarette? Because his vision wasn't good. I'm like, you darn right. Who wouldn't want to light up a cigarette? So I would do that. And then he would say, hey, pop this beer for me. I'm like, I guess this is what it's like being a Methodist. I don't know. But anyway, so I'd pop the beer for him. And then he said, hey, do you want to fish? And so, like I said, in the bayou and down in the Pensacola area, a lot of fish that they would catch would be mullet. and you can eat mullet. They actually, if you've ever been to the Floribama, they actually have a mullet toss. And so, but also mullet is used as a bait fish as well if you go out deep sea fishing. And so you don't catch mullet with the rod. You actually catch it with a casting net. And so he'd give me the casting net and I throw it out there. And that's when I learned about the third thing that Sumter did. He'd cuss. And so when I throw it out there, even though he was blind, he could tell I wasn't doing it right. And he'd say, "Damn, Judd, you're not doing it right." I'm like, awesome. He cussed at me. This has never happened before. So I cast that net and cast that net. And finally he said, "Judd, the reason you're not doing it right is because you're trying to cast the net where the fish are. And you really need to cast the net where they're going." And I thought to myself, man, for a blind man, is that not an unbelievable leadership? That'll preach right there. And so hopefully everything that we're doing, we're casting our net where our members are. And I think really COVID has really taught us that our members are in a totally different situation, in a totally different place than they've ever been. But what are we doing as CDF? What are we doing as the Chamber of Commerce to really capture those members? What are we doing as leadership developers with our CLI class to capture those leaders? And what are we doing to help grow this community? And so I ask you, what are you doing to cast your net and where are you casting it? So that's me. We'll turn it back over to David to hear from his dog, the Kiwanians, and let him bark a little bit, or I'll answer some questions or try to do some more Zoom jokes. Who knows?
Well, let's open it up to questions. That's a whole lot more interesting. My dog is now asleep under the desk, so we have overcome that.
Benadryl is a mighty powerful drug.
It is. It is. It is. So questions for Judd. We'll open it up.
It doesn't even have to be CDF related. It could be a personal question. I answer anything.
Hey, Judd, how are y'all going to allow people to sign up for Ignite? When will that be?
Yes, at nightleadership.com, at nightleadership.com. And then you can hit buy tickets now. And it'll ask you if you want to go to the morning or the afternoon.
Hey, Judd, I've got a question selfishly because of TVA. We work closely with you guys. What are you seeing as far as future opportunities through the chamber and businesses? How has COVID impacted recruitment? Talk about that for a second.
And I think David's going to speak for y'all in a couple of months. He'll kind of speak on that, but I will let you know, since I work in the same building, they have actually been very busy still. They've had a few announcements, and most of that's been existing industry. But as far as stuff is still happening, and they're doing a lot virtually, but they're not sitting up there just not doing anything. They're actually very active projects still going on. And I've heard David speak many a times. And so I feel like I can answer this kind of like the Jerry Clower joke where they say, well, I'll have my chauffeur answer this question. But a lot of things is different even in a political year too. So now that there's been a change, a lot of companies, good or bad, it doesn't really matter. They just kind of wait till after election before they make decisions. So I think you'll hear some more stuff coming through the pike from the economic development side, but they've actually been busy in COVID, but really they've been like us on the chamber side, just getting as much information out to those industries on what they can take advantage of through the CARES Act money.
Hey, Judd, this is Rob.
Hey, Rob.
Hi. I'm a part of a group that's trying to make a plan for a community event that was scheduled in the first week of April. So I'm really kind of wondering about your process as you think about 25%ing the capacity of the orchid or the orchard, however you pronounce that.
The new event center, who knew?
Who knew? So anyway, do you anticipate just the lack of certainty and how fluid the situation appears to be statewide? So certainly not a criticism, really just a selfish question. What was the discussion like, and how did y'all decide to do that? And did you consider a virtual meeting? Did you consider postponing even further, et cetera?
Yeah, we did. And if you go to nightleadership.com, we actually have a section on all the things that we're going to do to keep everybody safe. And so we actually did an event at the arena back in July with Glenn Shepard, a lot smaller scale, but we actually had, I think it was 75 folks, which was under the capacity there. Rob, you might have been at that event.
I was, in fact, yeah.
So we made everybody wear masks. Everybody was 6 feet apart. So all that will take place at the orchard or the orchid, wherever you want to.
The orchid, yes.
But yeah, we're following all CDC guidelines and looking at that, and we're hopeful that things will kind of change. But even if they don't, we'll follow all the rules that we're supposed to. So
yeah, and just managing it strictly by the numbers and okay.
Correct.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Joe, this is Greg. I don't have
Hey,
a question. I just wanted to, there's a clarification I want to make. The jokes are not funnier in person than they are in Zoom.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Greg.
Greg, I don't know. I have to confess to laughing out loud a couple of times, but I wasn't even making eye contact with Judd when he did.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I don't know what you were watching, but it wasn't Zoom.
Well, y'all got to remember, Greg has to listen to me every Sunday. So
I like the Memphis joke. That was great. I'm going to remember that one. So
there you go.
That was good.
Rob, I'm sure you like that one too. Any other questions for Judd?
No, not a question, just I was 6 years old before I found out my name wasn't Damn It.
Thank you, Ron.
All right. Any other? All right. Well, thank you, sir. Always exciting to have you join us, and even more exciting to have you speak. It's a treat. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.